Welcome back to the channel. Today in this video, we are going to learn about Azure Data Factory integration with Git. We'll also discuss how Azure DevOps and Git making life easier for the Data Factory developers to manage their work with the help of Azure DevOps Git repository. How a developer or a DevOps team member can deploy easily with the help of continuous integration, continuous deployment available in Azure DevOps. We'll go through the details of configuring the Git, CICD and all with your or ADF resources. Let me show you the configuration which I have right now. So currently in my Azure subscription, I have this dev ADF resource which is going to be used by my development team. So my developers are working on this ADF instance. They are creating their development. They are working on their development of configuring some pipelines, datasets, some connectors, or basically they are performing some integration work on my ADF resource. Let's create one more instance of ADF pipeline, and that's going to be for my UAT team, so that my UAT team member can test the enhancement which is being made by the development team. So let's call it as an UAT ADF 01. If you look at the ADF creation steps, here you can configure the Git in your ADF if you want to. I'm going to leave it as is because this data factory, we don't want to create or configure the Git integration, but this is just to show you that you can integrate the Git configuration right here while creating the ADF pipeline or ADF resource itself. I'm going to leave the rest of the settings as is. I'll click this configure it later because I don't want to configure it. I'll leave the networking part as is. That's not relevant to our demonstration. So this is going to be my UAT instance of the data factory. Now while it is creating, it is created successfully. Now let's go to our development instance of the data factory. I'll open this data factory instance into adf.azure.com. I'll verify what I have it here in this particular section. Let's see that how many pipelines we have. We have one pipeline, one data set, which is being developed by the development team. Now, first, how do you integrate this development into a Git repository? How do we configure that in the Git repository? Let's see that. For that, first of all, I need to have the Azure DevOps project. I have the Azure DevOps project created for this demonstration. This is my Azure DevOps project, virtual learn/be a learner. That's the DevOps project. In this particular DevOps project, I would like to integrate my ADF pipeline. To integrate that, let's click on the manage, and then here in the manage section, you can configure the Git. To configure the Git, first of all, you need to select the option. Either you can configure it from the Azure DevOps Kit or you can configure it through the GitHub, which is again a Microsoft product now. That will automatically populate the Azure Active Directory, which is linked to this particular subscription, obviously. Now, the Azure DevOps project, which you would like to integrate with this ADF pipeline, that should have connection to this particular Active Directory which you have selected here. How do you do that? You need to go to the organization on your DevOps project, go to the organization setting, and here in the organization setting, you have the Active Directory option. If this is not selected or this is not configured, then from this particular drop-down selection, you would not be able to select your Azure DevOps project. So make sure you have this connection already available. I have it in my case, and that's the reason when I say connect, I'm successfully able to browse my organization name. I've chosen the organization, and now you can see that I'm getting the list of all my projects. So if you are not getting the list of projects for your Azure DevOps project, make sure you have the Azure Active Directory configuration for your Azure DevOps project. Next, you need to provide the name of the repository. You can give it any name. So let's call this Azure Data Factory. That's the name which is of your choice. Master branch, collaboration with master branch, and then you have a publish branch. This is the reserved branch which Azure Data Factory would like to keep by default for their own backward compatibility. Now click on the apply. So basically that will import the existing configuration which we have it in the Data Factory live mode to your ADF pipeline. So right now, if you look at my DevOps project, I'll go again, verify that if I have this repository, you can see that I don't have any repository called Azure-Data-Factory. Once I'm going to click on apply, that should create the repository, as well as it should push all the Data Factory content into that repository. What do I mean by that? That should push this one pipeline, JSON, and other contents, which I have it here on my branch. Let's verify that. If I refresh this now, I should have this repository created. You can see that we have got the repository, we have got the dataset, factory, linked service. So whatever things which you have configured on your Data Factory, that is basically pushed into your master branch of your selected repository. And now you can see that here at the top, this by default, this branch has been selected. Earlier there was no selection option available, but as we have configured the Git here on our ADF instance, that's the reason now we have option to select a branch. So let's say as a developer, I'm working on some feature on my ADF instance, so I can create a new branch. So like any Git or Git, so basically as ADF or Microsoft Azure is providing you a Git like experience in the ADF pipeline. So as a developer, you can create your branches, feature branch for example, and work on the features here on the ADF. You can test those features, and once it is ready to be published, you can basically create a pull request. So let's see how it works in our demonstration. So let's say this is our master branch, which is obviously taken from the actual live instance. This is my live instance by the way. If I switch back to the live instance, at the moment my master branch and live instance, both of them are same because I have just now created the master branch. So if I go back to our Git configuration, right now I'm in the master branch. Let's create a feature branch. So I'm going to create a feature branch. By default it is showing my name. You can give the name of your feature branch. Let's call it as in feature/demo 01. Save it. So what it will do, it will create a feature branch from the master, and that you can reflect it here as well. So if I refresh it now, you can see that that particular feature branch is available here. So now you have both the option. You can either, if you're comfortable enough to directly work on any of your IDE tool, you can clone this particular repository on your IDE tool, work on the feature implementation right there in your IDE, for example Visual Studio Code or Visual Studio or any other IDE, and then you can push the changes like you do any other development thing, right? Or you can basically directly work it here. For example, let's create another pipeline. So here in the pipeline, what I'm going to do, so let's add this wait section, for example. Okay, that's done. I can save it. That's saved now, and you can see that is saved on my local branch, on my feature branch. So if I switch the branch again, I just have the default implementation with one pipeline. I don't have the new pipeline which I have created just now. Similarly, if I go back to the live mode, I just have one pipeline, and here on my feature branch I have one. So let's say I have done the implementation. That's completed. Now next thing is I can create a pull request. I can create a pull request right here from my ADF pipeline. Isn't this cool? I don't need to go to Azure DevOps project. Right here from this user interface I can create a pull request, or if you want you can create a pull request from here as well. So let's go ahead and create a pull request. Once you click on create pull request, it will redirect you to your Azure DevOps project where you can create a pull request and then you can basically assign to for the review. Let's say I'm happy with the review, whatever changes I've done, I'm going to approve it, complete the pull request, and that will basically delete my feature branch by clicking on this particular checkbox. So let's delete the feature branch and that will merge to my master branch. Okay, I can go to the master branch now, and within the pipeline section I can verify that I have 2 pipelines in my Git repository. Similarly, if I refresh it here, I just have the master branch because the feature branch we have deleted it. Okay, that's how we have integrated the Git, and now we are using our Git experience for enhancing our developer-like experience right here in the ADF UI. Right now, next let's see how do we publish that. So to publish that, either you can use this option, click on publish, and that will basically publish the changes from master to the live mode, and your live mode will have the actual changes from your Git repository. But obviously that is going to be a manual activity, and we would like to have a CI/CD integration in place because this is our development instance, and we would like to carry on this implementation which we have performed on the dev environment. We would like to carry on this particular implementation to our further environment. Remember, initially we have created a new UAT instance, so we would like to publish these changes not only to this dev instance, but we would also like to publish it into our UAT instance as well, which is UAT ADF instance. To do that, we need to create the CI/CD workflow in place, which is going to be automated CI/CD workplace. For that, what I'm going to do is, let's go back to our repository. Here in the repository, you need to create a package.json file. Let's call it as in package.json. You can create it in any folder, any location. I'm creating it here in the root location. And in the package.json, you need to specify the npm dependency and npm build command. So this command is basically given in the Microsoft documentation that this is what you need to use. So what we are going to do, basically we are going to use this package.json file and use the npm commands to build our ADF pipelines or ADF code, and that by building the ADF code it will generate the artifact, and that's the reason we are using this package.json. So let's commit this package.json file as is into the master branch. Obviously you are going to have the CI/CD in place, so you may not want to directly allow the commit to the master branch, but this is just for the demonstration. I'm directly committing into the master branch. So now for next step, I'm going to create the pipelines. Next I'm going to create the build pipeline. So let's use Azure Git, select our repository, start new pipeline. Here you need to specify the steps. What do you want to do? Again, these steps are given in the Microsoft website, which you can find it here. So let's say these are the steps. So I'm going to quickly copy those steps. Step number 1, create the task. Okay, that will install the Node.js. Step number 2, it will run the npm task, npm install command, and you need to specify the path of your package.json file. So let's say if you have stored the package.json file in a particular folder, then you need to specify the folder location. That's it, but we haven't copied anything on the folder. We have copied on the root location, so I'm going to remove that. Next task is basically to run the build validation on the package using the package.json file. Here, one thing to remember, you need to provide the ADF resource ID. So let's copy the ADF resource ID. So I'll go to the portal, and from the properties I can copy this resource ID, which I can use it. It's not a rule that you need to copy as is. You can use any Azure CLI commands and then get the resource ID, or PowerShell command and get the resource ID, and use that particular resource ID here in this particular task by passing as an parameter. Next task is basically for the npm to generate the ARM template. So that will basically generate the ARM template. Again, I'm going to remove this particular folder location because we are not using any folder location. Same again, I'll copy the resource location, the ADF resource ID. Basically, this is the ARM template folder name, which is going to create. Next task, we have to publish the artifact. So let's copy this and publish our artifact. Again, I'm going to remove this folder location because, as I said, it is on the root folder. Let's save this now, and that will run the changes. So now we are running the CICD pipeline or CI stage right here on our DevOps project. So that will generate the artifact. It should not take much of time. So our build is completed. Let's see if we have the artifacts available. Here we go. This is our artifacts, which has been published by our code. So now we are going to use this artifact into our CD stage. So this is our CI stage. Let me call it as a proper CI name. Let's call it as an ADF CI. Let's go to release. Now we are going to create a CD process. So I'll go to release, create new release. I'll leave it as an empty job, add an artifact, and this time we are going to use our artifact ADF CI. This is going to be our artifact. Let's use this, add in stage, empty job. Let's go to the jobs, and here we need to use the ARM template deployment. So I'll select the ARM template deployment task, and from this ARM template deployment task I will specify my Azure connection detail first of all. So let's specify the Azure subscription detail, and then this is the name of the resource group. Let's say, for example, location, I think it is UK West. Now here in the template section we need to choose the template. So this is our template for ADF deployment, which we are going to choose. Similarly, we need to choose the parameter file. As we are deploying on the same ADF instance, so we are not going to make any changes, but let's say we have the UAT environment as well. So when we are going to deploy into UAT environment, we are going to change, or we are going to override this particular parameter so that it deploys the parameter file correctly, or the ADF instance name. Let's save this. I'll call it as a ADF CD. Create new release just to test this whether it is going to deploy our changes. If while it is deploying, I'll just show you that as of now we just have one pipeline in the live mode and one data set, whereas in the master we have two pipeline and one data set. That's the changes. So as a result we are looking for two pipeline in our live mode. Let's see if it deploys successfully. Let's go to our release. Deployment is in progress right now, and our deployment is completed. From this log you can see that it has downloaded the artifacts, and it is basically using the parameter file and deploying the changes. Let's verify this into our actual ADF instance. So now if I go to our live mode, Here you go. We have our live mod, and in the live mod it is the ADF pipeline is successfully deployed. Now let's go to our pipeline again. Go to ADF pipeline. Here at this stage we are going to call it as a dev, for example. Let's clone this stage, and at this time I'm going to call it as an UAT, so that after dev we would like to deploy it to UAT. Same thing, it's going to remain same, and we would like to change our ARM template parameter. So we know that, let's look at the parameter value. So in the ARM template parameter we have the ADF name as a parameter which we would like to change. So let's change this parameter name as in name of your second ADF, which is this. Let's see if it works. Okay, save it, create another release, deploy to both the stages. I'll go to the release pipeline and let's see how it works. Meanwhile, I'll open this UAT ADF as well. And here in the UAT's ADF, you can see that we have not configured any Git. At the moment, there is no pipeline or nothing has been deployed, because whatever changes we were doing it as a developer, we were doing it in the dev environment. Environment is completed. Here, if you wish to add approval gate in place, you can add it just to verify the changes or review the changes by a reviewer. That's up to you. Our UAT environment is also deployed. You can see that. Let's verify the changes here in the target ADF environment. Here we go. We have our UAT environment which has got the ADF pipeline. Dataset is also deployed, and we can see that we do not have the Git integration available. So obviously you don't want the Git to be integrated on your production or on the UAT environment, because you want to integrate the Git onto the development environment where your developers are working, and that's the whole objective of your CI/CD automation in place. So just to conclude our video, just to conclude our discussion, we have seen how do we integrate the Git into our ADF resource. How do you use the Git integration lifecycle to develop your code as a developer? How do you push your changes from Git to actual ADF instance? How do you publish the changes from Git to your actual ADF instance? We have also seen how do you create the CI/CD automation with the help of Azure DevOps, and we have deployed the ADF changes with the help of CI/CD to multiple instances of the ADF resources. We have deployed from dev environment to the UAT environment as well. At the end, I would like to thank you for watching the video till the end. If you like it, please give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Thanks for watching it. See you in the next video.